Level 1. Swim teacher. 18 years from now, you'll quote $500,000 for a man's life over dinner in Geneva. Right now, there's a body at the bottom of lane 4 in a municipal pool in Gary, Indiana. You're 23, community college dropout. You make $11.50 an hour. You teach children to float. That's your whole resume. The pool rented out for a corporate event, life insurance company. The kind where everyone's title has the word manager in it, but nobody has health insurance. You lifeguard grown men in Speedos. The sales manager showed up drunk, grabbed your arm by the pool. You pushed him off. Reflex. His temple caught the tile edge. The pool is empty. The security camera hasn't worked since February. You filed the maintenance request yourself. Nobody read it. You don't call 911. Nobody making $11.50 an hour has ever successfully explained a dead body to the police. Vinyl lane cover. 48 pounds of diving weights? You drive to the lake at 1:14 a.m. The body enters Lake Michigan wrapped in pool tarp and weighed with everything the supply closet had. Sleep 5 hours. Teach a beginner class at 8 a.m. 3 days later, you're drinking at a bar off Ridge Road. The kind of place where the bathroom has a padlock and you have to ask the bartender for the key like it's protecting state secrets instead of a toilet that hasn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. An old man sits down next to you. Doesn't order. Just sits. Looks at you the way a mechanic looks at an engine like he already knows what's wrong and he's deciding whether to fix it or scrap it. He says, "The knots were wrong. The weights were professional." You didn't see anyone at the lake. He saw you. Followed you there and watched the whole disposal from a parked Buick, and you never checked your mirrors once. His name is Victor. He hands you a phone number on a gas station receipt. What this man does for a living is the answer to a question that hasn't ruined your life yet. Level 2. Cleaner. The number connects to a man named Soren. No last name. First job. Drive to an address in Hammond at 2 a.m. Bring tarps, bleach, and a change of clothes that aren't yours. Don't knock, the door will be open. Most careers start with orientation. Yours starts with a mop and a bottle of industrial-grade hydrogen peroxide. The apartment is empty except for a body and the specific silence that happens when someone has recently stopped existing. Male, 40s. Single entry wound behind the left ear. The kind of clean work that tells you a professional was here before you. You don't know who this man was. You don't know who killed him. You know your job. Make this room look like nobody died in it. You're good at this. You were already good at this before you knew it was a skill. The pool taught you chemistry without calling it that pH balance. Chlorine reactions. The way organic material breaks down in different solutions. Turns out the distance between keeping a pool clean and keeping a crime scene clean is about 2 semesters of chemistry you never took and 1 stomach you didn't know you had. 3 months. 6 cleanups. You learn the details they don't teach in any classroom. A body weighs more than you think and less than you'd expect the second time. Bleach doesn't remove blood, it oxidizes hemoglobin. Luminol still catches it. You need hydrogen peroxide for the proteins. Carpets hold evidence the way grudges hold families together, deep and in ways you can't see until it's too late. The company doesn't have a mission statement, but if it did, it would be short and it would not be on LinkedIn. Job 4. You arrive at a warehouse in South Chicago. Same routine. Tarps, peroxide, gloves. But this one is different. Single wound. Same caliber. Same angle behind the left ear, slightly upward. Same shooter. You realize the work you've been cleaning isn't random violence. It's a production line. Someone is picking contracts, and you're the after-sales service. You look at the wound, and without meaning to, you think, Temple would have been cleaner. Faster. You catch yourself. You're here to mop, not critique. But the thought arrived without permission, and thoughts like that don't leave. You don't say anything. You clean the floor. Drive home. On the radio, a news broadcast mentions a private security firm in East Africa accused of recruiting child soldiers. You change the station. It doesn't mean anything to you yet. It will. The silence is the test. You pass it without knowing it was being administered. Soren calls the next week. Different tone. Victor says you have a clean stomach and a clean mouth. In this industry, those are the 2 qualifications that matter before they teach you anything else. Level 3. Spotter. Soren gives you a folder. Inside, a photograph, a home address, and a name you're told to forget the moment the contract is done. Your assignment. Follow this man for 2 weeks and document everything. Where he eats, where he parks, when his wife leaves for work, which door he uses, whether the building has cameras, whether the cameras work. Your job is to build what the industry calls a pattern of life, the document that tells a killer when and where a person is most vulnerable. Surveillance is 98% boredom and 2% adrenaline. It's like being a firefighter, except the building you're watching is a person, and you're the one who's going to tell someone where the exits are. You learn counter-surveillance the hard way. Week 1, following a subject in Evanston, you park on the same block 3 days in a row. The subject's neighbor notices your car and calls the police. You talk your way out with a story about a cheating husband and a private investigation license you don't have. Soren doesn't yell, he says. Third car rule. You always have a third position. Never the same angle twice. A pattern of life report is useless if you become part of his pattern. 2 weeks. Your report is 14 pages. Entry points, exit routes, security gaps, shift changes. The 45-second window between when his building's doorman takes a cigarette break and when the lobby camera cycles back. On his desk, a newspaper clipping something about a security contractor in Kampala. The name Haraka Solutions is circled in red. Soren sees you looking, moves the paper under a folder. You don't ask. You've learned what not asking is worth. You hand your report to Soren. He reads it without expression. 4 days later, the man in the photograph is dead. Heart attack, says the news. You read the police report online. No investigation. No suspects. The kill happened at the exact window you identified. The doorman, the cigarette break, the camera cycle. Your file guided the bullet through a gap you measured with a stopwatch and a $12 Casio. You didn't pull a trigger. You pulled a curtain open and someone else stepped through. You should feel something. Guilt. Horror. Instead, you feel the thing that's worse than both satisfaction. Your report was perfect. The gap you found was the gap that was used. Your hands are steady holding the phone. The same steady Victor noticed at the lake. You're starting to understand what he saw. In rooms you'll never enter, Soren has started mentioning a spotter from Gary who writes pattern of life reports like they're architecture blueprints. In those rooms, that's how legends begin. Not with a body count, with a stopwatch. Level 4. Apprentice. Victor picks you up in a rented sedan that smells like black coffee and Cold War era aftershave. He doesn't say where you're going. He drives to an abandoned grain elevator outside Gary and hands you a 9mm. 2 rounds, he says. 1 is confidence, 2 is professionalism, 3 is panic. You will never load 3. Most professions have a training program. This one has Victor, a grain elevator, and the kind of silence that means you're either learning or you're being evaluated. Usually both. Victor doesn't give compliments. He gives the absence of criticism. If he says nothing after you clear a room, it means you did it right. It's like being raised by a wolf who found a management book. Weapons. Why a .22 caliber for close work, less noise, less penetration through walls? The round stays in the body instead of becoming evidence on the other side. Why a .308 for distance? Suppressor physics, a suppressor doesn't silence. It redirects. In an enclosed space, a suppressed 9mm sounds like a heavy book dropping on a hardwood floor. Outdoors, it sounds like a car door closing 2 blocks away. Legends. How to build a cover identity that survives a police database check. Utility bills in the legend's name. A rental history. Employment verification from a company that exists on paper and files taxes on revenue it never earned. A legend isn't a lie, Victor says. It's a life that happens to belong to someone who doesn't exist. The only thing fake about it is the person living it. Dry runs. Victor takes you through a Marriott in Indianapolis. Entry service elevator, 3rd floor, room 312. Execution point. Exit stairwell to the parking garage. You walk it 6 times with the Casio running. Under 60 seconds or you're not ready. You get it to 44. Then the ride-along. Victor takes a contract in St. Louis. You drive. He walks into a parking garage at 9:18 p.m. Comes out at 9:19. Checks his Casio. 41 seconds. I'm getting old. Gets in the car. You drive south. He doesn't mention it again. 3 months later, Soren calls. Direct line. There's a situation in Chicago. This one doesn't come back to the table. He pauses. Victor says you're ready. You go home. Sit in your apartment. Good water pressure now. Rent paid through spring. You think about the sales manager in Lake Michigan. That was a reflex. This would be a choice. You call at 10:30 p.m. 1 word. When? Level 5. Contract killer. 9 days watching a man named Ralph Keane before you do anything. 44. Logistics broker. Lincoln Park. Jogs the lakefront at 6:15 a.m. Same route? Same Italian place every Wednesday. Tips exactly 18%. parks his BMW in the same underground garage every night. The stairwell door is propped open with a brick because the keycard reader's been broken for 2 weeks and nobody filed a maintenance request. You know about unfiled maintenance requests. They're how people die not from enemies, but from small neglects that stack until someone like you walks through the gap. Wednesday, 10:40 p.m. Stairwell, latex gloves. The 9mm same model Victor trained you on. 2 rounds loaded. You hear his voice. 1 is confidence, 2 is professionalism. Keen parks. Opens his door. The recognition takes less than a second the moment a man's brain processes that you are not a neighbor, not a stranger, but a category. 2 rounds. Center mass. He falls against the driver's side door. Car alarm. Stairwell. Street. The brick is still in the doorframe. 47 seconds. The Casio confirms. Weapon disassembly in your bathroom. Barrel off the Ashland Bridge into the Chicago River at 1:30 a.m. Slide into a construction dumpster in Pilsen. Frame mailed to a vacant address in Rockford, it'll sit in a dead letter bin until a postal worker throws it away in 6 months, which might be the most government thing that's ever happened to a murder weapon. Gloves burned. Clothes donated to a Goodwill 3 neighborhoods over. Someone will wear the jacket you killed a man in to a job interview. You think about that for 2 seconds and stop. 2 seconds is all this work allows. 40,000, half in a safety deposit box, half through a currency exchange as gambling winnings. Their entire business model is built on not asking questions. The Casio reads 1:47 a.m., the same watch that timed a body sinking into Lake Michigan, that clocked a doorman's cigarette break, that Victor used to teach you room clearing. It's now timing the distance between who you were and who you've become. The watch doesn't know the difference. You're not sure you do either. You check the exits before you check the fridge. You've been doing it so long you don't notice. The habit does. Soren calls 2 days later. A client in Zurich, international. They've seen the Chicago outcome. Clean, no trace, no investigation. They want to talk to you directly. Soren arranges the legend management consultant. You fly out Thursday. Not wrong. You manage problems. You consult on their permanent resolution. Level 6. Professional. The Zurich client pays $180,000 for a financial officer in Liechtenstein who laundered money for 3 intelligence agencies and tried to retire with the receipts. Hotel balcony. 6:40 a.m. Silence 22. 4 seconds of exposure. He goes over the railing with a watering can still in his hand. You didn't expect the watering can. They never mention the small things in dossiers. You're in the elevator before it hits the terrace below. You access the service corridor through 3 days of small talk with a housekeeper named Clara about her grandson's soccer matches. Sent the boy a signed jersey after. Not guilt. Investment. The best compliment in this profession is when nobody remembers you existed. 18 months. 7 contracts. Amsterdam, Lyon, Istanbul, Bucharest, Milan, Lisbon, back to Chicago. You develop signatures nobody sees, always service entrances. Never the same city past 72 hours. Burner phones bought at airport electronics stores where clerks process 400 faces a day. Fee. 150 to 250,000. 1.4 million across 3 safety deposit boxes in 2 countries. Your mother thinks you work in international logistics. She's describing the career correctly without knowing it. Then you get a contract you don't take. A journalist in Athens. 2 kids. Writes for a paper with a circulation you could fit in a high school gym. Not a threat and embarrassment to someone with money and bad judgment. The intermediary doubles the offer to 400,000. You say, I don't work embarrassment contracts. He finds someone else. The journalist publishes 3 months later. You check. She's alive. The fact that you checked is the point. The margin still exists. There's a Tuesday morning nowhere important where you watch the sun come up over Lake Zurich and remember teaching a woman named Diane to do a flip turn at the Gary Pool. She was 63, brought you pierogies every Thursday. You think about her sometimes. Just when light hits water a certain way, and you remember you used to make people's lives slightly better instead of considerably shorter. Prague goes clean, but the exfil doesn't. Driver on the wrong street. 7 minutes in a district with a 4-minute police response. You take the tram, a disassembled weapon in a laptop bag while a teenager next to you watches TikToks at full volume. The bag weighs 4 kilos more than a laptop should. You hold it on your lap like it's normal. Normal is the hardest thing you've ever performed. You reach the safe house and sit in the dark. Not fear, exhaustion. Victor stopped answering his phone 6 months ago. You didn't ask why. That's the rule. You spend the next 6 months building your own infrastructure. Drivers, documents, cleaners, safe houses. You stop being the weapon. You become the hand that aims it. Then a US intelligence contact reaches through 2 intermediaries. High-value target. Geopolitically sensitive. Can't use military. Can't use agency. They need someone who doesn't exist on paper. Level 7. Fixer. The target is Marcus Delacroix. French. Former Foreign Legion. Started a private military company called Haraka Solutions, registered in Delaware, operated from Kampala. In northern Uganda, Haraka provides security services to mining operations. The security services include child soldiers. Not as a last resort, as a business model. Children cost less than adults, obey faster when frightened, and when they die, nobody files a complaint because the families are dead too. Marcus donates to children's hospitals in the same districts where his company conscripts the patient's siblings. He learned Akali specifically to give orders to 12-year-olds in their own language. Forbes Africa profiled him 14 months ago. A new model of private security. The model is slavery with a PR budget. The CIA wants him dead because he started selling intelligence to a Chinese mining consortium. Not because of the children. The children were never the reason. The budget for the Marcus operation is classified. The budget for the children's hospitals is on his website, next to a photo of him smiling. The smile costs less than the ammunition. You read the dossier 3 times. Your Casio ticks on the desk. This one you do for free. You don't tell them that. You quote 500,000. The fixer model is already running. 6 months back, a defector in Belgrade selling signals intelligence to 3 buyers. You source an operator named Inga. She's better than anyone you've used and charges less because the market undervalues women in this field by roughly 30%, a fact that would generate a very passionate email in any industry that had an HR department. Safe house, documents, exit. Inga handles it in 9 hours. Your fee, 120,000. Hers, 200,000. You make less and carry none of the risk. You run 2 more contracts Lisbon, then Sao Paulo before the CIA call comes. Your name has traveled through networks you've never seen. In certain rooms in Zurich and Washington and Langley, you're not a person, you're a capability. The kid from the Gary Municipal Pool has become a unit of measurement for professional lethality. That's not a compliment. It's a trap disguised as one. The Marcus contract is something else. Uganda, jungle, militia territory. You need people who know the roads, who can source weapons locally without touching supply chains the CIA will monitor even as they're paying you. You need a crew. First time other people's lives depend on your planning, not your exits, your decisions. Level 8. Crew boss. You fly into Entebbe on a legend that identifies you as a water infrastructure consultant. Not wrong. You're about to dismantle some very specific plumbing. Crew meets at a hotel bar in Kampala. Joseph, ex-BMC Logistics, 12 years, knows every road between Kampala and the Sudanese border. Inga, Swedish NGO passport. Tamir, former Mossad signals, left the service because institutional loyalty is a pension plan for people without options. 2 brothers from Gulu who lost their parents to the LRA and spent a decade doing anti-militia intelligence for organizations that paid them in thanks. You pay them 30,000 each. They count the money without expression. People who've lost everything don't smile at cash. They verify it. 6 people in a hotel bar in Kampala planning a state-sanctioned assassination over Tusker beers. If anyone walked in, they'd see a team of NGO consultants having a strategy meeting. They wouldn't be entirely wrong. Marcus operates from 3 locations. Compound outside Gulu 37 armed and a perimeter you'd need an airstrike to crack. Kampala residents, too many civilians. But the lodge near Murchison Falls. Monthly dinners for arms dealers, mining executives, the occasional European diplomat who needs deniability the way other people need oxygen. Security runs light because his guests want safari, not a war zone. After dinner, Marcus drinks alone on a terrace overlooking the Nile. Same chair, same wine. No guard within 30 meters because he doesn't like being watched while he thinks. A man who commands child soldiers wants privacy for his thoughts. The brothers build a pattern of life across 2 dinner cycles. 8 guards, perimeter every 22 minutes. 3 cameras on the access road, none on the river. Window, 4 to 7 minutes. You're in Gulu sourcing a suppressed 308 and 2 sets of night optics from a dealer who sells to both sides of every conflict in the region, a business model that only works because his customers keep killing each other's referrals. You stop at a market. A boy, maybe 11, sells phone chargers from a cardboard box. His left hand is missing 2 fingers. Old wound. Healed smooth. The kind Marcus's operations produce the way a factory produces smoke. You buy a charger you don't need. He gives change in coins so worn the denomination is a guess. You sit in the truck for 4 minutes. You've killed 9 people for money. This one is the first where the money doesn't matter. Joseph calls Wednesday morning. Marcus is closing a deal selling the entire Haraka network to a Chinese mining consortium. If it closes, Marcus gets Chinese state protection. The CIA confirms. If the deal closes, the contract is void. 30 days of planning just became 72 hours. You brief the crew the way Victor would have. Short sentences. No questions at the end. Inga. 72 hours is enough if nothing goes wrong. You. Nothing ever goes wrong in 72 hours. Nobody laughs. By Saturday, either Marcus is dead or the children he conscripted become the property of a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Level 9. Syndicate operator. Saturday, 2:14 a.m. The Nile moves south and doesn't care what's happening on its banks. Inga and Tamir approach by water flat-bottom boat, motor killed 200 meters upstream, drifting on current. You're 3 kilometers south with Joseph monitoring comms. The brothers hold the access road. Marcus steps onto the terrace at 2:47 a.m. Wine glass. Same chair. Inga takes the shot at 140 meters. Suppress 308. 1 round. Marcus drops. The wine glass shatters on stone louder than the shot by a margin that almost kills everyone. Guard finds the body in 11 minutes instead of 30. Lockdown. Checkpoints in 20. You reroute dirt tracks navigated by Joseph from memory because GPS means a digital trail through a kill zone. Safe house outside Masindi at 5:50 a.m. You wire. Resolved. Reply. Acknowledged. 12 letters for a man's life. Government efficiency. Haraka Solutions issues a press release. Visionary leader and dedicated advocate for regional stability. The child soldiers in Marcus's network are absorbed by 3 other militia groups within the month. Nobody rescues them. Nobody was going to. The CIA pays. $500,000. 4 shell companies. Over 3 years you stop running operations and start managing them. Zurich, London, Washington. The violence is Inga's now. You've been promoted to the part of killing that wears a necktie. You sit in a Geneva restaurant and realize you've become the boardroom version of Marcus Cleaner Hands. Same math. You fund a youth swimming program in Gary through a foundation that doesn't carry your name. Your mother dies on a Tuesday in March. You fly home on a real passport for the first time in 6 years. She never learns what you do. That's the last gift you give her. You're 41. You pass the municipal pool. Through the window, a young instructor on deck, maybe 22, correcting someone's backstroke. His hands are steady. The specific kind of steady that gets noticed by the wrong people. You keep walking. The Casio reads 2:47 p.m. Same model. Replaced twice. The watch doesn't know what it's been timing. Pool chemicals. Hydrogen peroxide. Doorman cigarette breaks. A man's last second on a terrace above the Nile. That's the only innocent thing left on your wrist. Somewhere in this country, a kid with steady hands is watching the clock at the end of a shift and wondering if this is all there is. Somewhere in the parking lot, an old man is sitting in a Buick, taking notes. The steadiness is the hook. The steadiness is the trap. And the phone number is already written on the receipt. The story you just heard is fiction, but the fixers are real. The child soldiers in northern Uganda are real. And somewhere right now, a 22-year-old with calm hands and a $12 watch is about to get noticed by someone who doesn't teach swimming. If this one stayed with you, leave a thought below. Subscribe for more.